This is program 21 of our series. We have just 10 speeches left. So far in the series, we've brought you speeches from as early as 1913, when Marcus Garvey was just 26 years of age, and also up to 81 years ago, when he was in his 50s. We now have an exciting range of speeches to share with you over the next coming days. So far, we have broadcasted 20 shows. With that said, we move on to bring you another famous speech. This one is a classic. Now, the title of this speech has been quoted over many books and social media platforms. This speech was delivered in New York City, April 18th, 1922, and printed 4 days later in a Negro World newspaper. The UNIA published 2 newspapers to promote their work and to raise funds. The speech is titled, Africa for the Africans. Today's narration is by Ras Nito from Birmingham, UK.
Unite for the benefit of black people. Unite for the Africans abroad.
You are listening to an honor level production featuring the Resurrection of Marcus Mosiah Garvey series.
Fellow men of the Negro race, greetings. For 4.5 years, the Universal Negro Improvement Association has been advocating the cause of Africa for the Africans. That is, that the Negro peoples of the world should concentrate upon the object of building up for themselves a great nation in Africa. When we started our propaganda towards this end, several of the so-called intellectual Negroes who have been bamboozling the race for over half a century said that we were crazy, that the Negro peoples of the Western world were not interested in Africa and could not live in Africa. One editor and leader went so far as to say at his Pan-African Congress that American Negroes could not live in Africa because the climate was too hot. All kinds of arguments have been adduced by these Negro intellectuals against the colonization of Africa by the black race. Some said that the black man would ultimately work out his existence alongside of the white man in countries founded and established by the latter. Therefore, it was not necessary for the Negroes to seek an independent nationality of their own. The old-time stories of African fever, African bad climate, African mosquitoes, African savages have been repeated by these brainless intellectuals of ours as a scare against our people in America and the West Indies taking a kindly interest in the new program of building a racial empire of our own in our motherland. Now that years have rolled by and the Universal Negro Improvement Association has made the circuit of the world with its propaganda, we find eminent statesmen and leaders of the white race coming out boldly advocating the cause of colonizing Africa with the Negroes of the Western world. Not more than 2 months ago, Senator McCollum of the Mississippi legislature introduced a resolution in the House for the purpose of petitioning the Congress of the United States of America and the President to use their good influence in securing from the Allies sufficient territory in Africa in liquidation of the war debt, which territory should be used for the establishing of an independent nation for American Negroes. Just a few weeks ago, Senator Franz of Maryland gave expression to a similar desire in the Senate of the United States during a speech on the soldiers' bonus and the Allied duties. He said, "We owe a big duty to Africa, and one which we have too long ignored. I need not enlarge upon our peculiar interest in the obligation to the people of Africa. Thousands of Americans have for years been contributing to the missionary work which has been carried out by the noblemen and women who have been sent out in that field by the churches of America. This reveals the real change on the part of prominent statesmen in their attitude on the African question." Now comes another suggestion from Germany, for which Dr. Henrik Skeen, a former governor of German East Africa, is editor. This German statesman suggests in an interview given out in Berlin and published in New York and the 16th that America take over the mandatories of Great Britain and France in Africa for the colonization of American Negroes. Speaking on the matter, he says, as regards the attempt to colonize Africa with the surplus American colored population, this would in a long way settle the vexed problem, and under the plan such as Senator France has outlined, might enable France and Great Britain to discharge their duties to the United States and simultaneously ease the burden of German reparations, which is paralyzing economic life. With expressions as above quoted from prominent world statesmen and from the demands made by such men as Senator France and McCollum, it is clear that the question of African nationality is not a far-fetched one, but it is reasonable and feasible, as was the idea of an American nationality. I trust that the Negro people of the world are now convinced that the work of the Universal Negro Improvement Association is not a visionary one, but very practical, and that it is not so far-fetched, but can be realized in a short while if the entire race will only cooperate and work towards the desired end. Now that the work of our organization has started to bear fruit, we find that some of these doubting Thomases of 3 and 4 years ago are endeavoring to mix themselves up with the popular idea of rehabilitating Africa in the interest of the Negro. They are now advancing spurious programs and in a short while will endeavor to force themselves upon the public as advocates and leaders of the African idea. It is felt that those who have followed the career of the Universal Negro Improvement Association will not allow themselves to be deceived by these Negro opportunists, who have always sought to live off the ideas of other people. It is only a question of a few more years when Africa will be completely colonized by Negroes, as Europe is by the white race. It is for us to welcome the preferred help of such men as Senator McCollum and France. Though their methods are a little different to that of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, yet it is felt that the same object will be achieved. What we want is an independent African nationality, and if America is to help the Negro peoples of the world establish such a nationality, then we welcome their assistance. It is hoped when the time comes for American and West Indian Negroes to settle in Africa, they will realize their responsibilities and their duties. It will not be to go to Africa for the purpose of exercising an overlordship over the natives, but it shall be the purpose of the Universal Negro Improvement Association to have established in Africa that brotherly cooperation which will make the interests of the African native and the American and West Indian Negro one and the same. That is to say, that we shall enter into a common partnership to build up Africa in the interest of our race. Everybody knows that there is absolutely no difference between the native African and the American and West Indian Negroes, in that we are descended from one common family stock. It is only a matter of accident that we have been divided and kept apart for over 300 years. But it is felt that when the time has come for us to get back together, we shall do so in the spirit of brotherly love. And any Negro who expects that he will be assisted here, there, or anywhere by the Universal Negro Improvement Association to exercise a hearty superiority over the fellows of his own race makes a tremendous mistake. Such men had better remain where they are, and not attempt to become in any way interested in the higher development of Africa. The Negro has had enough of the vaunted practice of race superiority as inflicted upon him by others. Therefore, he is not prepared to tolerate a similar assumption on the part of his own people. In America and the West Indies, we have Negroes who believe themselves so much above their fellows as to cause them to think that any readjustment in the affairs of the race should be placed in their hands for them to exercise a kind of an autocratic and despotic control, as others have done to us for centuries. Again, I say, it would be advisable for such Negroes to take their hands and minds off the now popular idea of colonizing Africa in the interests of the Negro race. Because they are being identified with this new program will not in any way help us because of the existing feeling among Negroes everywhere not to tolerate the infliction of race or class superiority upon them, as is the desire of the self-appointed and self-created race leadership that we have been having for the last 50 years. The masses of Negroes in America the West Indies, South and Central America are in sympathetic accord with the aspirations of the native Africans. We desire to help them to build up Africa as a Negro empire, where every black man, whether he was born in Africa or in the Western world, will have the opportunity to develop on his own lines under the protection of the most favorable democratic institutions. It will be useless, as above stated, for bombastic Negroes to leave America and the West Indies to go to Africa, thinking that they will have privileged position to inflict upon the race that bastard aristocracy that they have tried to maintain in the Western world at the expense of the masses. Africa shall develop an aristocracy of its own, but it shall be based upon service and loyalty to race. Let all Negroes work towards that end. I feel that it is only a question of a few more years before our program will be accepted not only by the few statesmen of America who are now interested in it, but by the strong statesmen of the world, as the only solution to the great race problem. There is no other way to avoid the threatening war of the races that is bound to engulf all mankind, which has been prophesied by the world's greatest thinkers. There is no better method than by apportioning every race to its own habitat. The time has really come for the Asiatic to govern themselves in Asia, as the Europeans are in Europe and the Western world. So also it is wise for the Africans to govern themselves at home and thereby bring peace and satisfaction to the entire human family. I am calling upon Negroes everywhere to lend the support necessary to the Universal Negro Improvement Association for putting over its great convention program of August of the present year. As has been outlined in other parts of this paper, it is planned to make the immediate establishment of an African nation one of the features of our legislative demands. The best thing that the race can do is to create just at this time a universal sentiment in support of the work of the forthcoming international convention, so that when our demands are presented to the various governments that have possessions in Africa, there will be no doubt as to the potency and force of the demands. We have decided to ring the changes in 1922 as never was done before. This year is regarded as the year of racial and national changes. Egypt and Ireland have already secured their freedom for 1922, and it is most likely that before the close of the year, India will have gained a large modicum of self-government. We cannot therefore allow the cause of Africa to lag behind. It is for us to force it. Thus, the Universal Negro Improvement Association shall leave no stone unturned to win for Africa and the 400 million Negroes of the world a new position in the racial, national, and political affairs of the world. All that is necessary is the moral and financial support of the race everywhere for this great organization. You can contribute your might now to help this great cause. If you have not done so before, and even if you have, it is your duty to send a donation to the Universal Negro Improvement Association, 56 West 135th Street, New York City, USA, to help this great work for the redemption of Africa and the emancipation of the race. With very best wishes for your success, I have the honor to be your obedient servant, Marcus Garvey, President General, Universal Negro Improvement Association.
You have just listened to an Honor Level production.
Africa unite, 'cause we're moving right out of Babylon, and we're going to our father's land. Yeah. How good and how pleasant it would be before God and man, yeah, to see the unification of all Africans. It's been said already, let it be done, yeah. We are the children of the Rasta man. We are the children of the Maya man. So, Africa unite, 'cause the children wanna come home, yeah, yeah.
You have just been listening to Africa for the Africans, originally delivered April 18th, 1922. and resurrected 97 years later. This concludes day 21. We want to thank Ras Nito for today's narration. Ras Nito has been a reggae artist for over 10 years. You can visit him on YouTube by typing Ras Nito, that's RASNYTO. He's also a well-established fashion designer, tailor and screen printer with over 25 years of experience. He has just released a series of African hero merchandise, including Marcus Garvey. Ras is the co-founder of Roots Man Freedom Fighter, music production company and sound system. He says, I did the project because I am a Garveyite and I want to inspire the people to raise up and do the right things and achieve what our ancestors were doing through adapting an attitude of progress. And as a Rasta man, Ras Nito says, forward ever, backward never. We welcome your comments, opinions and feedback on the Resurrection of Marcus Garvey series so far. Should you wish to share, you can email us at honorlevel@hotmail.co.uk. That's on-a-level@hotmail.co.uk. As you know, in this series, we are paying homage to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, as Black History Month is all about celebration. So join me to give a few shout-outs, starting with Garvey's parents, Mama Sarah Jane Richards and Pops Marcus Garvey Sr. We also want to pay homage to those esteemed ancestors who paved the way for Marcus to appear on the world stage. We also pay homage to the graduates of the School of African Philosophy and all of the founding members and supporters of the UNIA. Last but not least, we pay special homage and tribute to his esteemed wife, Amy Jakes Garvey, who was a formidable leader in her own right. Mrs. Garvey kept her husband's legacy alive, and it is partly because of her loving efforts that we can share this groundbreaking series with you today. Tune in tomorrow at the same time for the resurrection of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, with me, Jermaine Brown. I'm going to leave you with the famous anthem that Marcus Garvey and the UNIA members had wanted to be adopted as the universal anthem for black people across the globe. Let's take a moment to listen and feel free to wave your red, black and green flag should you have one.
Up your mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
Ethiopia, thou land of our fathers, thou land where the gods love to be. A storm cloud at night suddenly gathers, all armies come rushing to thee. We must in the fight be victorious, when swords are thrust outward to gleam. For us will the victory be glorious, when led by the red, black and green. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe, advance to meet the foe, with the might of the red, the black and the green, with the might of the red, the black and the green. O Jehovah, thou God of the ages, grant unto our sons that lead the wisdom thou gave to thy sages when Israel was sore in need. Thy voice to the dim past has spoken, Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hand. By thee shall all fetters be broken, and heaven bless our dear motherland. Advance, advance to freedom.